I don't know what the hell's going on out here, but I hear the radio. She's supposed to be reloading. What the hell you doing? Come on, get your ass a pumping here. That's better. What are you doing?
I was just putting these thingies into this tube thingy. Like you said. But I don't understand. Why do I have to keep on doing this?
Well, remember the cookies? You said you'd make the cookies and we ate the cookies. And you made the cookies and we ate the cookies. And we said we would shoot the bullets and you have to make the bullets. And you said, sweet.
Okay. But I've been doing this for like ever. And my right arm feels like it's bigger than my left arm. It really hurts.
You've only been doing this for about a month, every couple of nights for a couple thousand rounds. It's not a big deal. Hey, why don't you just get your little butt a pumping here on that thing?
Alright.
That's better, muffins.
In Arizona, for example, it's too hot to really reload in the summer. So during the winter, October, November, December, January, February maybe, this is the prime time to be in the garage reloading. Of course, up north you have the winters, and probably it's also the prime time to be in the basement reloading. There's not much else you can do when it's snowing like that. So it's probably a good time to just give you a little refresher here. No one ever reads the safety warnings that come with your reloading equipment or in your reloading manuals. So I just wanted to kind of go over it a little bit. I'm not going to go over everything or anything specific for your reloading situation, but in general, the first thing to remember is, although you're excited to start reloading, to get to the task and crank out hundreds of rounds or whatever you're going to do, make sure that your work area is clean. I don't mean sanitary, but I mean don't have a carburetor part behind your reloading press. Clear the stuff away, give yourself a little bit of clear work area. Make sure there's no hazards on the floor or anything like that you're going to trip over. Be real careful with that.
So, what are you doing?
Well, I've been doing this all night, every night for like a month.
So how much did you get done here tonight?
Like a lot. Like this much.
That much?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good. Maybe we'll give you tomorrow off.
Yay.
Let's see that arm that you're complaining about.
This arm is way bigger than this arm.
What, from pulling the handle, you think?
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
So you think your right arm is bigger than your left?
It's obviously bigger. I feel it. It hurts.
I don't see a difference. Anyway, get your ass pumping here a little bit more and we'll give you tomorrow off, okay?
Okay.
That's more like it. That's my girl muffins.
The one thing I do, I'm really aware of, and that's the ability of people to mix up powder. I've been to people's houses that are really knowledgeable reloaders, and it looks like a science kit behind their reloading press. Just hundreds of cans of different kinds of powders. And if there's powder in their press, in their dispenser, I'll say, what powder is this? And they go, well, the out tells me they're not 100% sure. So I have a rule, and my rule is, if I'm doing pistols, the only powder that's in the garage for me is Bullseye. I'm not advertising Bullseye, but I'm just saying one powder in the garage at a time. Just one. So in this case, this dispenser's full of Bullseye. I know it's Bullseye, and I have the container for it a little distance away. There's no reason to have a lot of explosives near each other. Although the powder is really not explosive, it really is more like flash powder, you might say, when it's not confined. But I keep this stuff separate. The other thing is primers. People mix up primers all the time. So I'm told, and I'm told that, oh, it's no big safety. Well, if it makes no difference, the companies would just make one primer. They wouldn't make several types of primers. So in this case, the only primers that are in the garage, we're doing 9mm here, or going to do 9mm. The only primers that are in the garage are Winchester small pistol primers. Again, this is not an advertisement for Winchester, but if you look through all my cabinets, I don't store this stuff in here. I have to purposely bring it out. And the other thing to be aware of, I bought a box of primers before, and it said Winchester small pistol on it, let's say, and I opened the box and start looking, and I noticed one side was small rifle and one side was small pistol. Apparently somebody wanted 500 small pistol and somebody wanted 500 small rifle. They didn't want 1,000 of each, so they just took a handful out of the box and replaced them. Or maybe they were stealing, maybe one cost more than the other. But anyway, I bought the box from a big box store, of course, and got home and had small rifle and small pistol in the box marked small pistol. So that taught me that when I go to the store and buy these, for one thing, I open the box and make sure that all the stacks in here are correct, that nobody swapped them. And when I'm reloading, although this is the only one in the garage, every time I load primers, I always go back and I inspect the box. It says small pistol. I verify it. And there's something else to be aware of on some of these primers. Like for this, for instance, this here's Winchester's. And the well, I'm not going to get one out, but the Winchester primers, oh, here's one that's belly up. You can't see it, but when I look in the bottom of this primer, it's pink. I know that on Winchesters, the small pistols are pink, the small rifles are green. I know that. And I'm always verifying this, verifying I'm using the right primer in the right application. So be very careful of that. Now, I've mentioned about mixing up the powders and stuff like that. If you use too many powders, I really suggest that you try and settle on just a few. If you have too many powders, it's very easy for you to get mixed up. Oh, this took 4.7 grains, this took this. You can get mixed up and have an accident, use the wrong volume of a specific powder in the wrong application. So I really encourage you to refine your inventory of powders that you use and write it down. Documentation is the best thing to do. Make sure you write everything down, exactly what you used, how many grains, and what application with what bullet. Keep real good records of this, because a year later you'll go to reload and you'll think it was 5.4 grains where really it was 3.2 grains in a specific pistol or something like that. Documentation will save you every time. So be sure that you pay attention to this. And also, besides the powder documentation and using the right primers, the other thing you want to be sure of is what else you have in the garage running. Like right now, over here I have a drill press and I have a grinder. When I'm reloading, those are strictly off limits. Hey Muffie, you know I'm interviewing people.
For what?
Well, I'm interviewing them for an executive assistant intern.
What is that?
Well, executive intern, instead of just being able to reload and make cookies, we also let the executive intern clean the garage and wash the truck. And intern means you don't have to pay me.
Really?
Really?
Yes!
When I'm done reloading, of course I'm going to do thousands of rounds, I'm going to take the shop vac and I'm going to clean the garage. I'm going to clean up all the powder, any primers I may have dropped on the floor. I'm going to clean everything before I run any equipment. I'm also going to make sure that there's no powder in here, in the dispenser, and the powder that you see laying over there, it's going to be away from here. It's going to be back in the house in the cabinet. So be very careful of that. When people are reloading, if they have trouble with the primer or something like that, they stand here and they fight it and they fight it. The primers are only a few cents, even if you got screwed on them. If you paid $40 for a box of primers, this is 2014, but if you paid 4 cents for a primer and you're having trouble putting it in, you know, pass on it. Don't try and put it in. Anything that's an obvious or possible error or defect, get rid of it. Don't use it. You're just saving pennies. It's not worth it. In my case, you know, you can't see this, but you might see there's some red fluid in here. That's transmission fluid. And anytime I get a bad primer or something like that, or it doesn't want to seat right, I don't mess with it. I throw it in here in the fluid. It's transmission fluid. You can use oil, anything like that, and that will deactivate the primer. Go on with a fresh primer. Don't try and save it. If you have a case that the primer went in incorrectly, throw it in here. The fluid will deactivate the primer. Don't try and push out a hot primer with your press. Don't try and do that. It's a little bit dangerous. The primer can go off. People think that the primer is very safe. It just makes a little crack sound, a little flame. Well, you know, people that shoot rubber bullets and training, they don't use any powder in their bullets. It's strictly the primer. The primer, if you had loaded a case and shot it at night with no bullet in it, just the primer to see what happens, you get a pretty good flame and some hot sparks coming out of the end of the gun. So what I'm telling you is if it goes off in the press, you can get a lot of blowback in your face. So always remember to wear safety glasses anytime you're using your press, and be very careful with primers. The powder is pretty inert. It takes some pretty hot temperatures to set the powder off, and it's pretty safe. It's not like, you know, people are afraid, oh, I got a pound of gunpowder. It's pretty safe. Don't repackage your gunpowder into another container. Leave it in the container it's in. If you would put it in, let's say, a metal container and your house would burn down, let's say you put in a real strong metal container, you essentially have a pipe bomb. In the plastic container, it'll flare, kind of like watching the old-time pictures where somebody takes a picture and there's like flash powder. That's what the powder essentially does, it flashes. The only thing that really explodes is the primer. The primer, if it goes off in your press, it'll get your attention, I'll guarantee you. After years and years of reloading, I finally had one primer go off on me. And that was caused by a 45 ACP cartridge that had a small primer hole in it. This is something else we have to watch for now. 45 ACPs always took large primers. There's a new breed of 45 ACPs out there that takes small primers. And in the sorting process, although I sorted and I inspected real good, in the process of doing thousands and thousands of rounds, I missed a couple of these. One of them, when I went to force a large primer into a small primer hole, one of them went off. And I'll tell you, it got my attention. I will absolutely guarantee you should wear safety glasses. That's an absolute rule. In general, reloading is very safe. Whatever press you got, read your manual that came with it. and be sure that that's one little section that you never read. So you got your press 3 years ago, go back and get your manual out and read the warnings. Just browse through them. They may be more specific for your press. You should also make sure that when you're using any machinery, and this is a machine, when you're using any of this machinery, take your watch off, take your ring off, get this stuff off, because you can't catch it, or, you know, this kind of stuff around any machinery is a little bit of a danger. So be very careful when you're actually using this machinery that you're following rules as if it is a machine, like you worked in a machine shop. This is, you know, a press, and, you know, essentially when you're using it and the cartridges come around, you manually put the bullet on it. Now, if you've been out here doing this too long, or if you've been drinking, do not drink when you're reloading. Anything to dull your senses, it's too late at night, you've been out here for 4 hours, and you're going along, really hitting it, you can get out of sequence. You could smush your fingers real hard. I know it's not electric and you're the one doing the smushing, but if you're too groggy, you can hurt yourself. I've caught my fingers a couple times, and I wasn't even groggy. But if I was groggy, I might have really hunched down and hurt myself. So don't reload when you're groggy. Make sure that you're sober, and make sure that you're alert. And anytime you sit down to reload, what I always do is I'll get my reloading manual. I had it here, I must have put it in. I'll get my reloading manual and I'll check the range of the powder. I'll look at my notes and see what I loaded. I'll verify that everything makes sense, that the year before I didn't write the wrong numbers down from a 44 Magnum on a 9mm, but I'll re-verify everything and make sure that I know what I'm doing. The other thing that I do is, like in this case, this is a bag from last year, and I know exactly what I was shooting last year. I'll also verify this to make sure it matches my notes, matches the reloading manual. At the very minimum, what you should do, or what I recommend doing, is get some of these nice heavy-duty baggies to put your ammunition in. Here I have a couple of the bags from the actual bullets that I recycled. And these work good. And on the front I have what it was loaded with. But these baggies work excellent. At least put the minimum information down. You know, this is like a 115 grain, jacketed hollow point, 4.4 grains of powder. I only use bullseye, but that's me. And the exact date it was written on. So that's like the lot number. If I have problems with one of the bullets, anything on that date is suspect. But at least put the minimum information down. Hey Muffie, you know I'm interviewing.
For what?
I'm interviewing for a new daughter-in-law.
Where can I apply?
You're applying right now as we speak.
How am I doing?
Let's just say you're high on the stick.
I have a rule at my house. I let everybody come over and use my reloading equipment. There's no reason for everybody to go buy a Dillon 650. When you just use it, really, maybe a week or two a year. So my friends come over and use it. But they have a rule. When you come to Paul's house, if you're doing rifle, there's a specific powder you have to bring. When you're doing pistol, there's a specific powder you have to bring. I don't like anything mixed up. I don't want anybody bringing any foreign powders in here. I don't want anything like that that can later catch us. So we have to know exactly what's going on in here. A lot of people have the feeders up at the top, the feed cases, and primer feeders, fancy ones. In my case, I find that pulling this handle after you pull it, I don't know how many 9mm cases it holds, 20 or 30. After you pull it 20 or 30 times, it's worth it reaching over and getting more cases. So you're not repeating the same activities. Every 100 primers, when it runs out, at the very minimum, at 100 primers, when I have to throw another 100 in, I pull the case out and I measure the powder. I verify the powder load. Although this press right here has gone thousands of rounds without ever touching the powder adjustment. Every one seems perfect. Every time I measure it, they're within tenths of grains. But still, that's my rule. Every 100, remeasure the powder, minimum. Sometimes before that. I also have real good light here. Well, these are just in here for show. But as they're going around, I can look in there and kind of get an angle on them and know I can see that the powder level looks approximately right. If something happened and I got a lot more powder, I would visually see it, or if I got a lot less, I would visually see it. So it's not 100%, but it's pretty darn close to know I don't have a double charge or an empty case. So pay attention to what you're doing. Don't rush when you're reloading. This is a hobby. Reloading is a hobby. So make sure that you follow all the logical safety rules. Go back and look at your book. Go look at the safety rules published from your manufacturers and just kind of review them, and maybe there's something that you need to brush up on. I know I went and I reprinted the directions. Actually, I printed RCBS directions and their safety warnings, and I kind of went through them. And I said, yeah, I got to really make sure I'm paying attention to some of this stuff. But be careful. Watch for intermixing. Make sure you document what you have, and reload safe. Have fun at the range. Later.
Do you guys think I'm dumb? I know what you want to see. But if you want to see, I'll show you.
No, 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 no.
You have to wear your safety glasses. Can't see without them. Always wear your safety glasses, especially while reloading.
Sweet. Well, you know, safety and reloading safety is a pretty boring subject. I hope we made it as interesting as we can. Make sure you wear your safety glasses. It's really important.
If you guys want to see me in more videos, click the like button below. All right.
I guess she wants to be in more videos. Anyway, subscribe to my channel, and we'll have some more fun later. Bye. I had the camera on, I hope. Yeah, I did. Okay.
I'm not dumb. I know what you guys want to see. Start over. I lost it.